Imagine walking down the street in Canton. You pass a popular manufacturing plant or maybe that favorite local bistro everyone loves. It looks busy, profitable, stable. Now imagine someone slaps a giant neon red for sale sign in the window. What is the very first thing that crosses your mind?
Panic, absolute panic. If I'm a customer, I'm thinking, what's wrong with it? Is the food bad? Are they going bankrupt? If I'm an employee, I'm already updating my resume on my phone before I even walk through the door.
Exactly. It's an instant reflex. We associate selling with quitting or failing, and that is exactly why we need to talk about this article today. We're diving into the paradox of selling a business. To get the best price, you have to market it to the world, but to keep the business worth buying, nobody can know it's for sale.
It is the ultimate catch 22. And looking at this piece on confidentiality in business sales, specifically regarding the Canton market, it really drives home a point that most business owners miss. They think confidentiality is just a preference. I'd prefer people not know. But the reality is, confidentiality isn't optional. It is literally a value driver. If you lose the secret, you lose the money.
That's a strong statement. You're saying secrecy creates actual monetary value.
100%. Think of secrecy as a structural pillar of the building. If you pull it out, the roof doesn't just sag, the whole thing might collapse before you even get to the closing table. The article highlights 5 specific ways this happens, but let's start with the most volatile element: the people,
The employees.
right? The human capital. In a place like Canton, or really any tight knit business community, word travels faster than light. If your key manager hears a rumor that you're selling, they don't wait to see if the new owner is nice. They assume their job is at risk. They assume the culture will change. So, what do? They jump ship.
And usually it's the best employees who leave first because they have the most options.
Exactly, the ones you can't afford to lose. So now you're trying to sell a business, but your star manager just quit, and the rest of the staff is distracted and gossiping by the water cooler instead of working. Productivity tanks. And when a potential buyer walks in and sees a chaotic, understaffed floor, the value of your business just dropped by 6 figures.
It's like trying to sell a car while the engine is actively falling out onto the driveway.
That's a perfect visual. And it bleeds into the second point: the competition. This is where it gets predatory. Business is war, right? If your competitors find out you're selling, they don't send you a fruit basket. They weaponize that information.
I can see that they'd go straight to your customers, wouldn't they?
Ruthlessly, they'll call your biggest accounts and say, "Hey, I heard company X is bailing out. They're unstable. Why don't you switch to us? We're here for the long haul." They plant seeds of doubt. Even if your business is perfectly healthy, the perception of instability is enough to steal market share.
That's terrifying because you can't really defend against it without admitting you're selling, which just confirms the rumor.
Precisely, you're stuck. And once you lose those customers, the revenue dips. A buyer looks at the books and sees a downward trend in the last quarter. They don't care that it was caused by a rumor, they just see a declining asset. They'll either walk away or offer you pennies on the dollar.
So we've got employees leaving and competitors poaching. But there's another layer here that I think people forget about: the supply chain, the vendors and creditors.
This is the silent killer. It's the one that surprises owners the most. Let's say you have a line of credit with a supplier, or you have net 30 terms. If a supplier hears you're cashing out, they get nervous about getting paid,
They think you're going to take the money and run.
or that you're selling because you're broke. So suddenly they tighten terms. They demand cash on delivery. They cut your credit limit. Now you have a cash flow crisis right in the middle of due diligence. It puts the business in a distressed state, which again destroys your leverage.
Leverage really is the key word here, isn't it? That seems to be the fourth major point. If the secret is out, you lose the upper hand in negotiations.
You lose all of it. Think about it. If I'm a buyer and I know that everyone knows you're selling, I know you're under pressure, I know your employees are spooky, Your customers are being poached and your vendors are squeezing you. I can smell the blood in the water.
So you're going to lowball me.
I'm going to lowball you aggressively because now you're not selling a thriving opportunity. You're selling a distressed asset. You need to sell to stop the bleeding. But if the sale is confidential, if the business is humming along, growing, and looks rock solid, then I, the buyer, am paying a premium for a pristine machine. I'm paying for the privilege of taking over a winner.
It creates a completely different psychological dynamic. But this brings up the obvious question. How on earth do you sell something without telling anyone it's for sale? It sounds impossible. You can't exactly put it on Craigslist without giving it away.
That's the art form. This is where professional brokerage comes in, which is what the article touches on regarding the process in Canton. You don't sell Joe's Pizza on Main Street. You sell a high volume Italian restaurant in Stark County with 500K EBITDA.
Ah, so you sell the profile of the business, not the identity?
Correct. It's called a blind profile. You market the numbers, the location type, the industry, and the potential. You cast a wide net to find qualified buyers, but they don't get the name or the address until they've been vetted and signed a non disclosure agreement, NDA.
So it's a filter. You're filtering out the tire kickers and the nosy neighbors.
And the competitors who just want to snoop on your financials, that NDA is crucial. It legally binds them to secrecy. It allows you to shop the business to hundreds of potential buyers without your head chef or your biggest client ever finding out until the deal is practically done.
It's interesting because it shifts the focus from the brick and mortar to the cash flow and systems. You're selling the engine, not the paint job, at least initially.
That's a great way to put it. And it protects the transition. That's the fifth point. Protecting the transition value. When you finally do announce the sale after the check has cleared, it needs to be a controlled message. Hey team, great news. We're bringing in a partner to help us grow versus I sold out, good luck.
The narrative control. If the secret leaks, you lose control of the narrative. If you keep it secret, you get to write the press release.
Exactly. And in a community like Canton, reputation is everything. If you handle a sale quietly and professionally, you preserve your legacy. If it turns into a circus, you tarnish what you built.
It makes me think about how fragile business value actually is. We tend to think of value as hard assets, inventory, real estate, contracts. But so much of it is actually built on confidence. The confidence of the staff, the market, the bank. And secrecy is the container that holds that confidence together.
That is profound. Value is basically just crystallized trust. If you crack the container, the trust leaks out and the value evaporates. The article mentions that business owners often feel guilty about keeping secrets from their staff. They feel like they're lying.
I can sympathize with that. You work with these people every day. It feels duplicitous.
It does. But you have to reframe it. You aren't hiding the truth to hurt them. You are maintaining confidentiality to protect their jobs. If the business loses value or collapses because of a leak, they are the ones who suffer most. Protecting the sale is protecting the ecosystem that pays their mortgages.
And that's a vital distinction. It's not deception, it's stewardship.
Stewardship, I like that. You have a duty to the business as an entity separate from yourself.
So let's wrap this up for our listeners who might be thinking about an exit strategy, whether it's next month or 5 years from now. The takeaway here isn't just be quiet, it's that silence is a strategic asset.
It is. If you are thinking about selling, your first call shouldn't be to your buddy at the bar. It should be to a professional who knows how to build that blind profile. Lock down your data, tighten your circle of trust, and understand that the less you say, the more you make.
It's almost philosophical, like in a world where we share everything on social media, where transparency is usually the buzzword, the most significant transaction of your life depends on total opacity.
It really does. It's the one time where being invisible is the only way to be seen as valuable.
A fascinating paradox. We'll leave you with that thought today. When it comes to your business, are you building a glass house or a vault? The difference might just be the zeros on your final check. Thanks for listening.
Stay silent, stay profitable.